Good morning, good afternoon, and a happy Friday to you. It's great to be back with you. I know last Friday was taking some time with my family, congratulating my niece who graduated from high school. Oh my gosh, can you believe that? Back in high school. But so fun to be back with you. And I have a special guest, Rasie B, who will be joining me today. But first, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Gateway Bank. You might have seen James Christensen on the show just the other week. He is, again, with Gateway Bank and is a proud sponsor of Tisha Talks Live, as well as my Social Connect Phoenix event that happens every quarter out here in Arizona. The next one is coming up on August 2nd. We are going bowling because it is so hot here in Arizona. So make sure you grab a ticket and register for that. This is a feel-good event. There's no business cards. It's just more about genuine conversations and connections. And you can just see here, like, look at the picture, all the smiley faces, all the people that come to these events get to meet some great people and continue those conversations. And of course, I like to host Connecting Through Community events. So stay tuned. I'll be bringing some of those back in the fall, where I team up with local nonprofits and help support their mission by being their volunteer organization. So friends, family, kids, all welcome to lend a hand at these Connecting Through Community events coming up this fall. Well, you know how we like to do it. We like to kick it off with a little dance party. And I just want to say thanks if you are tuning in live. I see some people off Facebook. I see some people off LinkedIn. Maybe you're tuning in off YouTube. If you are tuning in live, then we'd love to hear from you. Make sure you drop a comment, say hello. Or if you're catching the replay, Rasie and I will be checking the comments even after the show. So make sure that you connect with us either way. And we just love having you here. So let's go for that dance party, and I will be right back. Well, welcome back, and thanks for being on with us. I see Rasie smiling in the background, and I know we have some comments coming through. So let me go ahead and bring Rasie in, and we'll get this show started. Rasie, hey, girl. Thanks for being here. Oh, let me unmute you. Let me unmute you. There it is. Good to have you here. Thank you so much for being here from beautiful British Columbia out in Vancouver. I love Vancouver. I've been there a couple times with family, and we just love it. Stanley Park, my favorite.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful walk.
Yes, it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Well, I want to say good morning to some people that are tuning in. Bruce, thank you so much. You're always such a loyal supporter and friend, my guy here in the blue shirt. And Mr. Groovy joining us from LA. Thank you so much, Mr. Groovy, for being here. And Royce Blake. I've got all my favorites, my favorite guys. Royce Blake joining me in Phoenix. Thank you guys for being here. And then like them, if you're tuning in, please say hi. Tell us where you're from. And of course, throughout this broadcast, if you have questions, we're talking about leadership, healing, books, all sorts of good stuff, then make sure you drop those questions in the comments. We'd love to invite you to join us in the conversation. So, Rasie, how are you, my friend? Doing okay?
We have. Yeah. It's usually a thing like people get really excited about Fridays, and then I'm like every day of the week is super excited.
Yeah. If you can get to a place where you're like, every day's Friday, then yeah, we're good. You're good. Good. Well, Rasie is with RB Jumpstart Coaching, and today we're going to be talking about starting with self, leadership, and healing. And in the green room, we just had some great conversations because we have so much in common. Rasie and I do. Like, we're both authors, and we were just talking about, being vulnerable and, just talking about our books and so forth, and leadership. And I was sharing a story with her today about how my daughter was giving me kind of the lessons she learned in school about character, about people taking credit for your work. Oh, that's a good leadership issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you get to learn so much about yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Don't you? Yeah, I'm like, you're 11 years old and you're already learning this hard lesson. That is
Yeah.
a hard lesson. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. All right. Well, I want to give a shout out also to Ananira. Harry, thank you so much for being here. Pleasure to have you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, I love this. I love people networking in the conversations, just in the comments. All right. So, Rasie, first question I want to ask you is leadership has been such an important topic. I've had several guests on about leadership, but why do we start with leadership? Why would you say we start with leadership?
Because I'm like an advocate for self leadership. I don't know if you've heard of this. Like, I've actually heard someone say this: what is it? Do as I say, do not do as I do. I think that's like a huge like red sign saying go back in and reflect on what you just said, right? And I firmly believe that when we start with us, there's so much more we get to do in the world, right? So for a long time, like in my leadership experience, I'm a high performer when it came to like leading my teams. I show up and get burnt out because you got to be there for the team. You got to do what you got to do, right? And when it came to grief, taught me to go back in and really dive in and take care of myself so that I can raise my awareness. I can work on my motivation, be able to self-motivate myself, be able to regulate. And I get to do so much more for my teams because I'm showing up and I'm walking the talk. But that gap is so wide, Tisha, like across the board, right? There's a lot of, I'm going to tell you to do this and I'm going to show up this way because this person is watching. And there's just such a significant gap there. And I know that leaders have the potential, they have the capability to be able to do more and do better. And starting with self-leadership. It's like you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, okay, I don't like what I see. This is what I can do about it. Or I like what I see and I can pace myself and do better from there.
Yeah, there's that. I know when my kiddos were younger, there was an article I was in the newspaper, and it was really more about moms and how we're always about, like when you're in the airplane and they say, put the safety mask on you first.
Yes.
Help the other people. Like, don't try to help everybody else and then put it on yourself. Put it on you first so that you can be more efficient, you can be more calm and relaxed, and then help the others. And I think that just as a society, we're always about myself comes last, right? Like, I'm going to take care of everybody else, and whatever I have left is what I have to give myself.
Yeah.
And it's just such a wrong way of thinking.
Like with me, like growing up in Sierra Leone, West Africa, that's what I saw, right? Like that was a norm, is like, even if you have like your last bite of food left, you give it to the other person because they don't have food, right? And I'm for that, like with like helping more people. And I get like, for me, like we get to sustain. The sustainability is like a lot higher when we're doing it from a place of wholeness and capturing like, okay, there's an opportunity here for me to reinforce this specific behavior that's feeding what I need to do in my leadership role. Right.
Right. No, I love that. I love that. Look at this. Everybody's they're chatting amongst themselves. It's so cool to watch. All right. Well, I know you have a couple of books. You have your first one, which was Lead in Your Truth, and you have a second one that's coming out, or maybe it's already out.
It's out. Yeah.
It's out. Okay. Yeah. So the title is Why Heal on Your Terms. Can you tell us a little bit about like how you came up with that title and perhaps what the book is about?
Yeah, I definitely got to give a shout out to my younger brother that's in LA. He definitely helped me when it came to the title. I remember sending him like 6 options and we're going back and forth. And he's like, this one sticks. And I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling that. I'm going to go with that. Uh,
Boom.
but like how he came across was so I had a miscarriage in 2017, and then 7 months later I lost my husband. And through that experience of like deep grief and really learning about myself, right? Because there's that part of you like with grief that you don't even recognize anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my heart was like into pieces, and now I'm putting it all back together. And what I needed, I was going through those early stages of my grief experience, was people telling me like it's okay for you to grieve the way that you want to grieve. I
Mm-hmm.
needed to hear that. And as I went to therapy, that's where I felt empowered to have those conversations with the people around me. Because everybody has their own timeline. Like, I remember even family saying to me, I think it was like 4 months down the road, like, yeah, now you're ready. You can go back out there and remarry. And I was like, who are you? Like, what are you
Mm-hmm.
talking about? But because the culture has this, like, my culture has 4 months, right? Like for the widow, you're done grieving at that time. Like you're ready to
There's a
go.
cutoff. four
Yeah, yeah,
months. Oh my.
literally. Yeah.
Oh
And then,
wow.
and I even had an experience with like with a doctor. It wasn't my regular doc. My regular doctor was on vacation. And I went in for, like I wasn't sleeping very well. I needed to take some time off work. And that took everything in my body to be like, I need to step away from work. Cause Tisha, I was like crying after having difficult conversations with my staff. Like I
Oh,
walk away and start crying because I felt like I upset them. And I'm like, this is not me. Like there's
yeah.
something that I need to go in and do something about it and do the healing, right? And yeah, so when I'm losing my train of thought there for like a second. Yeah, so then I went to the doctor and she said to me, "Oh, it's been 6 months. Like, why do you need time to sleep?" And I was like, so I'm sitting there retelling a story, trying to prove to this doctor that I need
Mhm.
to take time off. And I needed a note from them. And at the same time, I didn't want to go through that process with another doctor. So I just
Right.
stopped through it. But that's like how I came to naming my book Heal on Your Terms. It's that anyone can do it at their own pace, and honoring that with love and compassion, and literally blocking out the noise from like everybody else, what people expect of us, and embracing and accepting that this is how I heal and it's different for every loss.
hmm I agree with that completely. And I know some friends here know that my best friend suffered a tragic loss with her son just recently. And it's interesting because she's bounced back a lot quicker than I know I would have. And so I think even your book about it's on your terms. Like other people might take longer, other people might work through it differently, but we've got to show them that compassion and that grace and just be there. But putting a timeline on it
Mhm.
of
Mm.
okay, you should be done. It's been 4 months, girl. Get your butt back up and get. You're just like, who are you? Why
Yeah.
are you doing that? Like, and and like I have to say something too. Like I have a business coach. She was on just a couple weeks ago too, and I really love what she said. She's like, you are not going to be 110% every single day. You
Mm-mm.
might be 50%. You might be 30%. You just have to just listen to your internal clockwork just saying just take a break, it's
Yeah.
okay. Like we don't have to be go 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 every single day, because there's some days where you're gonna crush it, you're gonna
Yes.
be 250%, and the next day you might be like 10%. It's what I've
Yeah.
got. I
Yeah.
got 10%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's like with the definition of best, right? It's different every day. It has a different description each day, right? It's
Right.
yeah, yeah.
What's your best? What's your best? All
Mhm.
right. I know we have several comments and questions coming up too. Bruce asked the question for you that says, How do you balance between the give and internal care needs? It's a great question, Bruce.
Yeah, that is a great question. There's always, I don't know, Tisha, you probably have experienced this, like you get this nudge like in your stomach, right? When you're
Mhm.
about to give from the place where you're not ready to give. So
Yes.
I'll give an example. It could be you've gone through, I actually call it like I don't have capacity. Like that's the conversation I have with
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
Let's say, for example, even with meetings, like I know I am present and fully in the moment in each meeting when I have 7 minute meetings a day, right? And it depends
Mhm.
what those meetings entail. Maybe it's planning, maybe it's just a catch up, maybe it's a coaching session. And I know when I'm at capacity. And it's so important for me to write that. Maybe it's on a piece of paper or it's on my wall or on my mirror. This is the meaning of when I'm at capacity and I can give from this space.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
actually, I think we're doing it's a disservice. Like when you're given from a place where you're struggling, like you're
Right?
actually not at your best. Because I don't know, like there's like what I don't enjoy like feeling is like that guilt or resentment after the fact. So
Mhm.
I would say like knowing, going in and figuring out, okay, this is what my capacity is, and these are the signs.
Mhm. That's a really great point. And I know Bruce knows this. I was talking to a client of mine that he's like, "We're gonna make you so famous. You're gonna be on every place. You're gonna walk down the street and everybody's gonna know your name," because he wanted me to do interviews with entrepreneurs around the country. And he's like, "You're gonna be so booked with so much business." And I was like, "Hold up, hold up." I don't want that. Like, I think we make these assumptions of what we think people want, and we're like, wait a second, I never said I wanted that.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think it's so important that you say you have to understand where you're at capacity. I'm
Mhm.
done. I
Yeah.
can't take on much more. I know I will be doing you a disservice if I take that on right now. I think
Mhm.
it's better if we wait or I pass you on to someone who can do a much better job for you and you put them in good hands.
Mhm. And Tisha, I want to add to that with communicating this as well and being transparent. I think especially when we're working with clients or we're working with our teams or it's with our family, be open about it. Let them
Mhm.
know like, hey, I might say no just because of this, and that, right?
Yeah.
I think that communication is key because some people want to know, and then there's some people that you don't need to tell, right?
Yeah.
And there's
Mhm.
some people already that know if I'm like, okay, I'm already at my max, they're like, okay, what about next week, right? Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, it's very true. I want to say hi to Juliet. Hey Juliet, who is joining us. Thank you so much for tuning in, lady. I know we have another question here because Bruce is all about the questions today. Bruce says, any tips for blocking out the external noise? Great question
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, going inward. So I'll actually give an example. I remember, so like after my miscarriage, like one of my friends said to me, like, oh well, at least you got pregnant. And it's good intentions, good
Yeah.
intentions. I definitely want to say that. And at the same time, like I was like hurting within, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going through this right now. Like it's tough. Like I've been looking
Yeah.
forward to this, and this is not what I want to hear. And I think when things like that happen, like when we hear noise that hurts us or it's not what we want to hear, it's an opportunity to go inwards and really ask yourself like the difficult questions. Like, why did that hurt me? Right.
Mhm.
It's usually a sign that for me, in that specific example I just gave, it was a sign for me to go back in and heal. So it meant I needed to pick up the phone and call my therapist and make a session, or it meant I needed to go into my journal and journal out like in my book. Or after that friend left, maybe I needed to just sit down and cry it out and let it out, right? Um, but I think it's like another way to block the noise is where it's like being aware of like your environment, like what feeds me and what's not feeding me, and what am I doing about it to do better, right?
Mhm.
Like if I know that if I go to 3 events, like for this week. I'm going to be burnt out by the end of the week. Right. And then if
Mhm.
that happens at once, then you circle back and you're like, okay, I'm going to actually only do 2 because at 3, I'm past capacity again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I think it's also good that when something like that happens, it's a how did it make you feel and naming your emotion. What was my emotion in
Yes.
that second?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's good. I'm working with a client right now on branding, and I've given him all these assignments for self discovery and core values, and he's like, "This is tough." I said, "Isn't it?" We have a 1 o'clock call later. He's like, "Did you want me to finish it by then?" I'm like, "No, no. I really want you to take your time because this is the foundation of
Mhm.
everything we do moving forward."
Literally. Yeah. Yeah. Totally
It
agree.
really is. So I'm like, "Do not rush. We'll
Yeah.
get it next time." But just take the time to look through everything and really, really put your heart, be vulnerable, and open up, and talk
Mhm.
about you and who you are. And I mean, so many of us, we haven't really taken that time, like you said, to focus on self, right, Rasie? We're so consumed with everybody else around us, that noise that Bruce keeps talking about, that we just don't take the time to just like, okay, I don't need people right now. I just need self.
Mhm. And we don't have to wait for something tragic to happen to be able to go in and do that work, right?
Mhm.
Like that's like my hope for more leaders out there and authors and our youth, that this work starts now and not wait for, like I ended up in the emergency room, like I was completely burnt out, didn't even wasn't even aware of it. And
Yeah.
that's when I was like, okay, we're going to do a self. Like, we got the self leadership part. Let's tap into self care and self leadership. Right.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. I know Royce has a question here. How can anyone define how deep your love is?
Sounds like a relationship coach kind of question.
It's a
Oh
great
my God.
question.
Define
Like,
how deep your love is. I
yeah.
mean, for self love, it's like, okay, this is how I know like I love myself like a lot. It's when I'm spending time alone and I'm able to disconnect from people or from like my phone. So I'll actually give an example. Like one of my girlfriends was like, "Hey, do you want to go to like this event on Sunday?" And I'm like, "Nah, Sunday is gonna be self time." I'm like, I need to spend time alone. Like I need to, yeah, that's it's interesting. For a long time I was like, oh, I'm fully extroverted. And as like with grief and like all the learnings and the intention to do better each day, um,
Hmm.
I'm like rolling into like, that like I'd probably say like 40% like introverted and like 60% extroverted. But how I would define it is like spending time alone and really enjoying it and not wanting to go out there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I know a friend of mine asked me a really great question, and she said, "Can you hang out with you?"
Hmm.
It's a good question. Do you like hanging out with you? And if you don't like hanging out with you solo, then perhaps that's a good reason to change some things up.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I like hanging out with me. I can tell Razie you like hanging out with yourself. So hey, I think we're in good company.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't enjoy it before, like I
Uh,
remember wanting to, but again, I was running away from the healing that needed to happen, the uncomfortable silence. I'm like, I need to be out here. I need to hang out with this person. And there was always plans like happening. And then with grief, I actually like pushed to be in that uncomfortable space with silence and be with myself.
mhm.
And I remember my therapist saying, if you want to do the things that you want to do, because I have like my goals out, I have up to 10-year goals like far out. And she's like, if you're gonna do that and excel at it, you need to go inward and do that work. And that
Mhm.
just like woke me up, and I was like, okay, silence and stillness. I'm here. Let's do this.
Yes, let's do it. All right. So, question for you: Who would you say is your biggest inspiration, Razie?
Whew. Yeah, like when I come back to this question and I think about it, it's truly like spend when I spend time with my nieces and nephews. Like
Mhm.
Truly. I just love how they move from their present in each moment and how they move, and you could probably say this like with your kids as well, and how they move from one moment to another with like such grace, right? And
Mhm.
forgiveness. Like they're able to shift so quickly, and it's like the past like didn't even happen and we're here now. And so whenever I spend time with like my nieces and nephews, I just feel like I'm a much better person from that interaction. And then also even like talking to them, not like they're kids, but like having that conversation like it's like any other person that I'm
Mhm.
chatting with, and I see they appreciate that. So that's something that I learned as well, right?
Mhm.
And so I was actually in Memphis in March, visiting my family. And there's my niece, Aja, that I always like, I spend so much time with her. And literally, we're just like attached, like hip to hip. She's I remember when I was like journaling, she's like, went and grabbed her book and she's like, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to do what Auntie is doing. But just like the ability to just be in the present moment and really enjoy it and not worry about what has
Mm.
happened or what is about to happen, and just being in that moment. So I it's elevated for me like every time I spend time with them.
I mentioned I was in Mexico for my niece's graduation celebration over the weekend, this past
Yeah.
weekend for Memorial Day. And I came back on Monday and I posted all the pictures when I was already back because I know Bruce was like, "Oh, well, safe travels." I'm like, "Oh, I'm already back." And I had another friend, Anthony. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know you're in Mexico. I'm bothering you." And I'm like, "No, I'm already back." And I just said, part of the beauty is taking all of these great photos with my family and putting my phone away
Mm-hmm.
and not being so rushed to everybody's got to see this.
Mm-hmm.
No, the people who are with me are the people who are seeing it, the people that I'm present with. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm very big into I'm going to take all the photos. I'm going to do all the fun stuff. I'm going to commemorate the moment, but you're not going to see the moment until I'm back.
Yeah.
And to me, that's such a great lesson. And just again, being present in the moment that you're in and enjoying the company and not being like, oh, so and so has to see this on social. No, they don't care. They can wait. So it just made me laugh
Mm-hmm.
because everybody's like, oh my gosh, I'm bothering you. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm good. I'm all good.
Yeah, it's that external validation, Tisha. It's that external validation people run to, and that it just brings it back to self, right? It's
Yeah.
what am I doing to validate myself right now? It's like being in this moment and enjoying those laughs, like the chat, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you also said something too about, again, I love that thought about knowing where you're at capacity level because I've been hit with a lot of these asks, people coming to me asking if I'd sit on this board or do this project. And I'm really just so good about saying no. I really can't.
Yeah.
And I think that we all need to get to a place like that where like, you know what? I can't give you anything. And I mean, it wouldn't be my best.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I like it. Oh, lots of comments coming in. Royce saying, I'm the funniest guy I know. Royce, you are funny.
Yes.
You're a funny, funny guy. Yeah. Yeah. And then Bruce commenting, do I like hanging out with me? I think it's a yes for me. In fact, my recharge time, especially after in-person events, I need to do this after each event. I'm the
Yes.
same. That is
Yes.
such a great lesson. So, for those of you who do a lot of events or you have these, like Rasie, you were saying you would do 7 meetings in a day, the next day, schedule a Rasie day or
Yes.
Bruce day or Tisha
Yeah.
day because it is a lot. Like, you're exerting so much energy in meeting people and talking to people that I know I'm drained and I'm an extroverted introvert too. So, I know that I need a down day of nope, PJs it is.
Yeah.
Sitting here with my coffee, nobody bother me. I just need a day to myself. And it's okay. We're not expected to be on all the time.
No, not like the guy at the barbecue, your video that you posted. And I was like, yeah, this is so good. This is so good. Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to tell a story.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's funny because I posted it on Instagram and a friend, Reese, was like, call him now. And I'm like, you know what? He'd probably answer and I'd be like, dude, you are a fool.
Oh my gosh. Even computers can't keep up 24/7.
No. So for those of you who are tuning in and didn't catch that, Tisha Talks. See, I even get confused. Lessons in My Lexus, which I do every Friday. When I was in Tennessee, or Savannah, actually, Savannah, Georgia, there was a commercial from a guy who just says yes to everything. And he's known as the 24/7 guy. Call him whenever. And this commercial had him sitting in a bathtub with bubbles around on his phone at a barbecue, flipping burgers on his phone. And he was always like, you caught me at a good time. Is it, Mike? It's not a good time. It's not a good time. Enjoy what you're doing at the present moment and get off the damn phone. Like, and this was his commercial and it just made me crazy. I sat there in my hotel, Rasie, just cringing, going, are you kidding me right now? Like, this is what you put on air?
It's awful.
So disappointed. I was like, you're not doing any of us a service. Like, don't put your phone down. Yeah, it's bad.
Oh, too good.
Good. Well, I want to start wrapping it up and let you have the floor, Rasie. So tell us, how people can get in touch with you. What's on the horizon? I know you've got leadership training going on. Like, you are a woman of many, many hats, but you do so many things so well. So please let us know. How do people find you? And I know I have your website up here.
Thank you. I was definitely going to say that you can go to rasiebjc.com and check out all the work that I do. I do leadership training, coaching, and consulting. So working with corporate leaders in leading their teams more effectively through self-leadership. And I also help out experienced writers who become authors with writing and self-publishing their books. I absolutely love the breakthroughs, the transformations, the healing that happens. Like me and Tisha were chatting about that before we went on live. And also, like, I do a lot of speaking, and I'm looking at working with like a lot of organizations with that leadership part, and I'm also doing facilitating workshops, etc. And what is on the horizon? I'm actually saying this out loud. This is the first time
Say it.
Oh my gosh, it's happening. I finished the outline for my third book. It was weird. And I was like, no, it's actually third. We plan to write 5 and the next, 5 books in 5 years. And for this book, I'm taking it back to the roots, and that's all I'm going to say. But it's coming.
Back to the roots. I love it. Yes. So one thing that Rasie and I were talking about in the green room is I've written a couple of books. I've also been a part of several collaborative books. And one thing that my dad actually clipped for me when I was writing my first book was my horoscope. And my horoscope, which was so spot on that I actually have it sitting on my bulletin board, said, do some writing. You'll find the process enthralling and you'll learn a lot about yourself. And that is the honest truth. You will learn so much, especially if you go back in your story, like back to the roots, right? And you kind of relive a lot of those moments that you went through, and you kind of analyze it from this perspective of now, right? What was that bigger picture? Like I've been reading some of my books, just in passing, like picking it up and reading it. And I was like, oh, I totally forgot about this moment. I totally forgot that I, restructured and went this way. And it's so good because we forget about a lot of those accomplishments, those lessons, those experiences that we've been through. So I love that I have a physical product.
There's nothing beats like holding that in your hand. Like I always say to my clients who are now authors, I'm like, you gotta schedule time in your calendar. It's like once every month or once every quarter. Go back in and read your book. It's unreal. Like what elevates, like you uplift yourself and you feed this like energy within. You're like, I did that. Like I wrote that, right?
Yeah, I need to do it because I have short-term, long-term memory loss. So I honestly, I know people are like, well, maybe it's because you want to be a bestseller. I'm like, no, that really wasn't important to me. Important to
Mhm.
me was telling my story for my kids and
Yes.
having a physical something that I could go back to. I could
Yes.
always go back to it, reread it, jog my memory. Because, like I'm just telling you, there's things that I did 5 years ago that I can't even remember because
Yeah.
life's moving so fast.
It is.
It's
It
always
is.
moving so fast. So I highly recommend it. I know someone who can help you with writing your next book. If
Yeah.
you're tuning into this live stream, definitely connect with Rasie. Rasie, where can people find you? I know that you and I are connected on LinkedIn, but
Yeah.
you're also on several other platforms.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. I post on like TikTok sometimes when I know that message needs to like get out there, and people are quite great
Yeah.
on that end. But definitely Instagram and on LinkedIn, and through my website you can actually find all my social handles, and on YouTube.
Very good. Well, there
Yeah.
you go, everybody. Thank you so much, Rasie, for being a part of Tisha Talks Live today.
Thank
A
you for
happy
having me.
Friday to you every single day since you love Fridays. And yeah, just thanks everybody for tuning in. I really enjoyed watching your comments and Rasie and I answering your questions. And I love this too. I want to put this up there too. Great point from Bruce saying, yes, write, even if you can't do it well. Your encouragement for me to do this on my weekly blogs and shout outs. Yeah, I think that some of us, we think that, oh, it has to be in book form and it has to be out on Amazon and all this, but I would say just write.
Yes. And Tisha, I'll add to that. That's why there's editors, right? Like
Yeah.
you doesn't have to be perfect. That's your goal is to get that message out there, get your story out there so that you can help other people find hope and be able to hold on to your words during the toughest times in their lives.
Yeah. I'll say this about being an author is that was the cherry on top, right? Like I had this purpose of writing my books for my kids and for myself and just for family. And but having someone read your book or listen to your story, because I voiced mine on Audible too and narrated it, having people come back and say, I really needed it at that time, or now I know so much more about your journey and what you went through. Like that's like, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for reading this and then coming back to me with your thoughts and your feedback and your insight. Like it's just such a great feeling.
It is. It is. Oof. Yeah.
We're all gonna get teary-eyed.
I'm like, if I start, I'm like, I could go on and on about that. It's just like I even do like a whole Q&A that I post on my Instagram stories to help more people, like just to plant the seed. Like, and some people don't even end up publishing because you're writing for yourself and then you leave it at that. You've gone through the transformation and you've gone through the breakthrough and you've healed like what hurts. Like it's about the process, not about the outcome.
I love it. That's exactly what the horoscope said. You will find the process enthralling. So I love what you just said, and Val's saying, yay, I know your next book will be fabulous. Well, hey, your next 5 books, because you have a few more in the works that you've got to write too. But yeah, like we were talking about, I like that you said that right now, Rasie, too, that you might find people that you encourage them to write their story, but they may never publish that book. But it's for them. This is such a great lesson in what we're talking about of starting with self leadership and healing. It's such a healing process when you can just be with yourself, write down your thoughts, write your story, and then go back and reread it from time to time. So yeah.
And Tisha, you probably experienced this like while you're writing. This is why I'm like, we can't get started on this. We're not gonna be so like with that self-leadership, like when you're writing, there's so many holes that you find in your self-leadership. Either it's like motivation to write, you find like, oh, I thought I was self-motivated until I'm like doing this, right? Or growth mindset, being open, right, to possibilities, and because sometimes the structure could change, your timelines can change, and also like regulating. So giving that pause, like, okay, these emotions are coming up right now. I really want to get all these like thoughts out. Maybe it's like recording what you're about to write, because writing is just challenging while you're crying, but it's probably
Right.
easier for you to cry while you're recording.
Right.
Yeah, and lots of awareness raised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I know in the last chapter of my book, it is such an evolution because you can go back to where you started in your book, or even when you started in your first book. Like mine was a whole 2 books spanning my life, my journey. And the last part, Rasie, I was just like, oh, there's a badass girl. Like she's out right now. And I just said, if you knew me years ago, you didn't really know me at all. And it said something about like my growth game is strong and I'm not the same person when you first read about me, when you first started the story. And oh, it was just like you could tell how much I had grown just in that moment and in those years. And that to me, I think is where the badassery started coming to play.
Oh, there's so many people resonate with that. So many people.
Yeah. Good. Well, yeah, we could talk about this for days and days and days, but I know you have a hard stop and I want to be considerate of everybody tuning in. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. So grateful for all of you. I hope you have an enjoyable Friday and rest of your weekend. And Tisha Talks Live will be back next Friday with Henna. She is joining me from Australia. So I have all of these international guests coming on board. We're going to be talking about business operations. And so make sure that you tune into that. And then I may be taking a little bit of a break. Yeah, I think it's well deserved for the summer. So everybody, we'll see you next time. And thanks again, Rasie. Thanks so much for being here. I adore you. And I'll catch you back on LinkedIn, my friend.
Thank you, Tisha.
We'll see you guys.